Okay, well, I'm gonna get started and hopefully they trickle in. So good morning. Welcome to the first meeting of the new year, January 4th of 2022, Commission on Disability monthly meeting. We are missing Bryce today, right, Sarah? So Bryce is not here. I have not heard from Jeff Bagg if he is not coming. Usually he says he's not coming. Eli, he should be coming. I just saw him yesterday. So we will go over the minutes later because I don't have a quorum to go over the minutes. But what we'll do, oh, hi, Jeff. What we'll do is we will start with, if there anybody here for public speak? No? Luis, are you just here to say hi and listen? Maybe. Okay.
Sorry, yes, hi.
Hi. You're just listening. Okay. All right. So we will go ahead with our presentation. We have some members from Stavros here, and I spoke to Jason to set it up. So take it away.
Good morning. My name is Jason Montgomery. I am the Director of Development at Stavros Center for Independent Living. I am joined today by Yashira Ruiz, who is our Director of IL Services. I believe that our CEO, Angelina Ramirez, was going to join us. I don't see her on yet. Hopefully she'll make it, but as some of you might know, this is a very busy time for Stavros. We are in the midst of a program transition. Program transition happened on the 31st, and so she may have gotten caught up. I apologize. There is a brief presentation that I'm going to just share, not my screen, but the Stavros presenter screen with you all so that we can talk. And then I'm going to turn it over to Yashira, and hopefully, Yashira will be able to give you a kind of a broader view of what day-to-day Stavros looks like. We are Stavros Center for Independent Living. For those of you who are not familiar with our mission at Stavros, persons with disabilities and deaf people develop the tools and skills they need to take charge of their own lives. We accomplish this through programs and services designed to meet the needs of a person at any age or disability as they work to achieve the life goals that are important to them. So that's a very, very long mission. But, if we were to simplify it, we're here to ensure that people living with disabilities have the right to self-define their own lives as they see fit. We were founded in 1974 as an independent living center by a group of individuals with spinal cord injuries. I believe we had about 4 original founders. They all, as my understanding is, met while at a residential or a nursing school, where they were unfortunately not able to live outside of at the time. So they got together and decided they wanted to, not live there. They were all young people, I believe 18, 19 years old. So working together, they bought a home out in Amherst and moved there, and that was kind of the start of Stavros. For actually closer to 50 years now. I need to update this presentation. Stavros has helped to give people with disabilities the tools and skills they need to achieve major life goals. Our advocates encourage and support the rights of people with disabilities through counseling, skills training, and many other supportive programs. Our philosophy is pretty simple. We are a grassroots disability advocacy organization. The self-empowered directed the focus of our activities. Whether it's the Stavros Board of Directors, who, there are individuals with disabilities who serve on our board. Our president, Glenn Hartman, is actually a individual with disabilities. our consumer advisory boards, consumers or disabled staff members, people with disability have shaped our ability, our individual services, as well as our systemic advocacy. If you are unfamiliar with the term consumer, it is our preferred term for the individuals we work with. Because we are an independent living center, we value the idea that the individuals who work with us have the right to choose any independent living center they see fit. And so we really, we have adopted that idea of the term being consumers versus clients or any other, kind of service model. We are here to serve them. They are our consumers. We are not here to, work with or any of those other terms that you may hear thrown around other organizations. Just a few of our major accomplishments over the last 46 years or nearly 50 years. As you know, the Franklin County Courthouse, we advocated and supported demands for accessibility there. We created the first volunteer surrogate program in the United States. We were plaintiffs on we're actually plaintiffs on numerous court cases. Stavros is continually fighting through litigation to ensure that every place that we encounter across our region is accessible. We also don't always just sue people. We have an individual named Andy Bristol who works with businesses in particular to ensure that they can meet the ADA and other accessibility requirements. But we're not afraid to actually get in there and fight. I mean, honestly, we filed a complaint against the city of Springfield. We're constantly out there doing these things that oftentimes get kind of overlooked in our community, but are vital for the advancement of disability rights throughout not just the Commonwealth, but the nation. We are the third independent living center in the nation and the first in a rural community. We have a strong nothing about us without us mentality. With more than 50% of Stavros employees are individuals with disabilities. We are here to serve our community, to ensure that our community has the basic human right of self-determination. We have three major areas of service. There is the advocacy, which I talked a little bit about through not just our litigation, but we also work with the legislator to ensure that our legislative priorities every year are being met. We have the independent living area, which Ishira will talk about more. So I'm going to leave that to the professionals. And our Pca Services, which did include fiscal intermediary services. Some of you may have heard that is now part of Tempest, but our Pca Services are still an active part of what we do through the Pca management program, which helps individuals learn about the Pca program through Mass Health and meet the requirements that they need to become employers. Many consumers who have personal care assistants, as you know, if you're here on the call with us, you are the employer of your personal care assistant. They don't work for Tempest, they don't work for Stavros when we used to cut the checks, they work directly for you. And as such, we help to ensure that you can meet all of those employment requirements so that you can successfully manage that incredible bureaucracy that is Mass Health. I believe in 2021, we served 9,000 consumers. So we talk about being a grassroots organization, but we have a huge service base. Most people who work with individuals with disabilities know Stavros. Unfortunately, a lot of the greater community doesn't know Stavros. There's a running joke at the organization that people ask if we're a pizza chain. We are not a pizza chain. So with that, actually, I'm going to turn this over to Yashira, so that Yashira can talk a little bit about who we are, what we do in the IL sphere.
Can I just ask if anybody has any questions before we do that? We're good to go?
Yeah, and
Okay.
we'll open it up for questions again at the end.
Okay,
I have something if my mic is working.
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Yeah, so do you just, so for litigation, how would someone go about, enlisting the aid of Starbucks if they thought there was an inaccessible thing? Inaccessible. Or would you just undertake litigation for someone who's, already receiving services?
Jeff, we'll save that one to the end because it's probably like a longer in-depth
Okay.
answer.
Sounds good.
Okay,
And with
go
that,
ahead, Yashira.
Thank you, Jason. And Jeff, I think as I go through the services a little bit more in detail, I'm actually going to be able to answer that for you. So I want to start really with the core services that we provide, which was one of these screens that Jason shared with you. So anyone can call Stavros. We have a no wrong door approach. So we serve anyone that identifies with a disability, like Jason said, regardless of age, regardless of area, whether it's education, employment, housing, accessibility, accommodation, medical issues regarding durable medical equipment, any issues we're having with our doctors about needs that we feel aren't being met. So we have you don't need to prove disability to us. You identify with a disability, you give us a call and you let us know what the matter is. And then we'll start through information and referral, we'll start discussing what the resources are available, if it's something that we can assist with in-house through our core services and our advocacy support. And if it's not, then with our no wrong door approach, we partner throughout the state with the ADRC, which are access points, our elder services. We have community partners. We have agencies in the areas that we serve where we can connect folks through. So you come to Stavros, you let us know what's going on, and then we're going to talk about what your next steps are, because like Jason mentioned, this plan is yours. You're identifying the barrier, the challenge, and we're going to go ahead and we're just going to kind of educate and provide resources of how you can maneuver through it. Our goal is to empower you and make sure that you have all of the information that you need to make the most educated decision for you, not for us. So the plan revolves around you. It's person-centered planning, it's person-centered speaking. And so through information and referral, that's where we kind of get that ball rolling. If it's something that we take care of in-house, we'll go ahead and assign that out to some of the services that folks are calling for. Our options counseling. So folks really want to know, what are their next steps? We have communities that are aging. We have family members that are taking care of aging relatives and really just don't know what's available for me in-house, what's available for me outside of my house. There is sometimes the misconceptions that facilities, long-term care facilities, is really where folks need to be after a certain point. And so speaking with an options counselor really just, I'm sorry, my screen like disappeared. Speaking with an options counselor, you're just able to filter through really what the resources are, what the options are. We have SHINE counselors, of course, with serving the healthcare needs of everyone. And so if we're talking about changes because of age and you're going from Medicaid to Medicare and you want to know what that looks like, what your options are, it's a very confusing system across the board, even for us that are working with it constantly. So we have folks that go through SHINE training every year and make sure that they are up to date with the most recent changes that have happened, so that when folks are calling and do need some assistance, we are able to give them the most accurate and updated information. Through options counseling, again, it's a person-centered choice. So we're always fighting for the rights of people with disabilities. in the community and what services are available in the community. We want to make sure folks have options. So we have housing specialists. We deal with housing both on the legislative side, where we're constantly fighting for more housing vouchers, accessible housing, affordable housing. We want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to live in the community of their choice with the services that they're entitled to receive. Within our housing realm, we also speak about long-term care facilities and what that looks like and what those options are. We have nursing home transition specialists that actually work within the long-term care facilities, not only with the folks that have decided that that's where they would like to be, but folks that are there and actually want to talk about, well, what's available for me other than this? And so our nursing home transition specialists also work with folks on what the options are, what waivered programs are available. So as you're transitioning, if your choice is to transition from a long-term care facility, what waivered programs are available for you, what services will be available for you. That transition is difficult. And so our specialists work with different aspects of what that transition looks like, preparing folks for the ultimate success. We want to make sure that if you're transitioning back into the community after a long-term stay at a facility, you're able to do that successfully. We don't want you to fail once you've reached your community setting. And so we work through that with the consumer at their pace based on the goals that they have set. So some of these transitions take a while. It's not something that happens, say, for different reasons, the goals that the individuals are identifying, as well as the housing gap that we currently have and are fighting for. That's one of the largest barriers that we have for folks within the community is just accessible and affordable housing. As we're transitioning folks, and I'm kind of doing this like I'm looking at almost like a map, and we're looking at housing. We want to look at accessibility for housing. We have a program called the Home Sweet Home program, and the program really focuses on home accessibility. And so it primarily focuses on ramp building and making sure that homes are accessible and folks are able to safely get in and out of it. That's not necessarily always possible in every situation. And so that program also works with the Home Modification Loan Program, which is a state program. And so for homeowners, there is a loan that's available that they're able to apply for and get to make their home more accessible. And then that loan has no repayment until that home is sold. And so depending on what the situation is, it is an option for some. The Home Sweet Home program has been around for a very, very long time, and it is a staple within the community. It's very well known. And so the coordinator has been able to build those very important relationships and partnerships where we've worked with vocational schools to help build ramp. We've worked with volunteers. We've worked with universities and colleges to bring folks in to help build ramps, in addition to having a contractor that we work with on a regular basis. But again, I always say it takes a village to get the work done. And so one of the things that Stavros has been able to do over the years is create this amazing village of mission-driven agencies, partners, individuals, volunteers that really do help move this along. As people are transitioning home and folks are already home and still facing challenges, we deal with durable medical equipment and the expense that can really be for across the board with or without insurance. And so we have a recycling durable medical equipment program where we refurbish, we take in donations of good condition items, and we'll refurbish them. And that really goes from shower benches to shower chairs to rollators or walkers to electric wheelchairs to electric Hoyer lifts, really the array of equipment that we recycle through the program is amazing. And it is a very effective cost-saving program for the state. And we've definitely proven that over the years. The need is incredible. Insurance, even with insurance, certain types of equipment do not get replaced until, 5 years. You can't get a new one. We're currently, and I know Jeff spoke about, how do you address litigation or accommodations? We're currently addressing wheelchair repair reform legislatively, because there's a huge issue for our folks that use electric wheelchairs and what that loaner program looks like and what the time to repair those wheelchairs look like. And so when we're talking about accessibility and really just dignity of life, if I need to give you my wheelchair and I don't have the appropriate and adequate loaner chair, that is a huge barrier for my day-to-day. And so those are the things that through our durable medical equipment program, we try to help out with, and also legislatively, we address on both ends. Now, I know that Jason mentioned that 50% of more than 50% of our agency are persons that identify with disabilities. And so we do peer counseling and peer services. So you're working with someone that has lived experience like you. You're working with someone that can connect with you and relate with you when we're doing counseling, when we're doing skills training and just working on personal growth. If we're working on individual advocacy with you. So if you're looking for accommodations, if you found a barrier or a challenge and you want to address something, whether it's your doctor, whether it's your landlord, whether it's your municipality, we're going to help you take those steps. And who you should contact, who you should speak to, what the process is to go ahead and put something in writing, make it known that you're bringing something to someone's attention, and how we move forward with addressing it. We do it, we provide support in housing court. If folks are having an issue or addressing a matter that's important to them. We coordinate services. I would say that the largest piece of what we want to do is we want to educate. We want to educate you to know these are your rights. You're entitled to this. And if you don't know how to go about it, let's walk through it. And I want to empower you to feel and know and be confident that next time, if something were to happen, you're going to be able to address this. We are always going to be here, back you up and support you. And if things are changing, we're going to definitely make sure that you're updated on that. But at the end of the day, we want to empower you to make that decision for yourself, whether I agree with it or not. As an agency, we would prefer so many other options other than long-term care facilities, shared living. I mean, we work through different housing options. But at the end of the day, if you came to us and you really want long-term care facilities, that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about long-term care facilities, what's available, what the services are, so that you're able to make the best decision that works for you. Everyone that we work with has an independent living plan, and that plan is developed by the consumer, and it's completed or abandoned by the consumers. We're just here to steer the way. And I know Jason mentions Andy Bristol. He's our technical assistant, and he works with municipalities and businesses to make sure that all public spaces are accessible based on the ADA and the AAB, the Architectural Access Board regulations. And so at Stavros, we receive the variances from the different municipalities of things that are happening. And Andy will provide some support, some consultation. We do that with businesses, not because I know Jason was like, we have sued a few people. We would prefer not to. We would prefer to work with you. And some of those lawsuits were very much needed. And some of them will still be needed. But from a business and an access standpoint, we would prefer to educate and work with you first. And we've done it across the board with a lot of small businesses. Where we're just kind of figuring out, so where can we make an accommodation? Because in reality, yes, structurally, we're not going to be able to do this, but so what can we do instead? And so that's what the SIL is here for. The SIL is to educate, open the eyes, and really just break down the barriers, the challenges, and kind of the blinders of there is so much more available, and there's so many other ways that we can do this and still make sure that it's accessible across the board for anyone that would like to access it.
Shira, we have a couple more minutes and we have to do open up for questions. So
I was actually,
oh no.
yeah, that was actually the end of my little spiel.
Okay.
Here.
Okay.
Great timing.
Jeff, do you still have that question? Jeff Brown? Or anybody else? Do you guys have questions? Mary, go ahead.
Good morning. I do have a question. I am familiar with Stavros through Mass Rehab. Okay, having worked with some of your peer counselors. But I was unaware that a person could self-refer. And my question is, does the person have to be in financial need in order to receive services? The only reason I'm asking is I'm going back almost 30 years. My father had a massive stroke, lost his whole right side, couldn't speak. My mother was adamant that he was coming home. And she brought him home and kept him home for 25 years. We took care of him. She was told at that time the only way he could get anything was if she divorced him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would qualify for everything. Mm-hmm. She chose not to because he couldn't understand. He didn't know what was going on. He couldn't understand. So she went through all their life savings, taking care of him over these years. And now we have to help her. So that was my question. Do they have to be in financial need?
So Stavros as an independent living center there's no financial requirement to it. There are some services that we contract, like Jason had mentioned, the PCA program. So that's a state program. It's a Mass Health run program that Stavros as an agency contracts with Mass Health. That program is specific to Mass Health Standard and Mass Health Common Health. So if you don't have those two insurances within the Mass Health umbrella, you would not qualify for the PCA program. As an independent living center, we would then meet with you, if you and your family still wanted to discuss what other options are available. And this is why our legislative work is so important, because there's just changes, eligibility criteria and requirements this is why systemic advocacy is one of our priorities. So that program is. The center does not have any financial restrictions, no.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just clarify real quick, Shira? I'm just taking notes. So it sounds like Stavros as an agency does not have financial requirements, but some of the agencies you contract with to help support folks might have separate requirements aside from Stavros. Okay.
And one area that I didn't mention was youth services, which is very important. We provide everything that we provide for adults, we provide age appropriate for youth in transition. And so those programs are also have an age restriction. It's an MRC program, and so they have age restrictions. It's individuals that are in school and connected with special education, IEPs, 504s. And so our youth counselors work directly with the youth and their guardians, teachers, and parents to make sure that their transition and goals are met. So it doesn't have that, again, program doesn't have a financial restriction to it, but it does have other areas that you do need to meet. You need to be between the ages of 14 and 22. You need to be connected to a school within our service area. So things like that. Not that if someone came to us and was not in school and met the age criteria, we would not find a way to serve. We would still find a way to help. It just may not be directly under one of those programs. We'll tailor it differently.
have a question. As part of the Commission on Disability, or myself as a city planner, I think we often get, one of the struggles that we're having as a commission is I think we often get questions from people, or there's an issue or a concern, and how best to direct them to a resource. So as a town, we don't have a lot of resources available to us, and as the commission, I think we have even less resources available. And I know that as the group, what we've been talking about is trying to put more information available on our website, so that if we can build it up as a place where people can go to access certain information. My question, I guess, is, in your experience, do you see a lot of towns or cities kind of putting up information about Stavros, like any kind of a summary of what Stavros does, and if you need this type of assistance, reach out to Stavros? Because what we're trying to figure out in part is, there's certain things that are issues that people encounter, and then how can we best direct them to the resource that will help the most? And it seems like Stavros has a lot of stuff available, but what would be the city's role in kind of relaying that information, or trying to put someone in touch with Stavros? I don't know, do you have any kind of experience with dealing with a municipality who wants to help better connect residents to services?
I'm not sure if Jason can speak to the kind of bigger picture of marketing. I can say that as an agency within our partners, the ADRC, the ASAPs, our aging services, we are on each other's forums, we're on each other's newsletters, we're on each other's info, we're on 413 info as well. So I know that Stavros is connected in the circle of resources that we have built. On a larger scope, Jason does our marketing and connections, so.
Yeah, actually, as some of you know, because I know that I'm friends with some of you personally, I did run a 211 center out of Santa Barbara for numerous years, and was a state director with 211, 211 being the Health and Human Service hotline. I would actually say, normally I'm a huge 211 guy. I'm like, put up 211, they can take care of anything. With a disabilities focus for this area, 100% share Stavros, because what I have seen with Stavros that is utterly different, and actually, believe it or not, as the development person, as the communications person, it's actually hard to really explain that. No, you walk in through the door, you enter through INR, you will get served, and we will work out a plan to meet your needs, versus a lot of other information and referral where it's just like, tell us what your problem is, here's some stuff, bye. That's not really what Stavros does. And so, yeah, 100%, it should be the first the first person on your website saying, if you are an individual with disabilities and you are looking to live more independently, call Stavros. I say that as a person who comes from the INR world, that this really is an incredible resource that more municipalities should be using, that more communities should be using, because it exists solely to ensure that individuals with disabilities have a place that they can go and have the resources provided to continue their life independently. So yeah, if you want to talk about what that looks like, let's you and I talk in another time, because I can provide you all the resources you would need to have your website include a portal to us.
I think that would be good, Angelique. I don't know if you agree. I think that would be good to have us kind of work on as the commission. We've been talking about our website and getting more resources available. So I think that'd be great, Jason. Thanks.
No problem. Yeah, we can do it on
appreciate-
email and go from there.
Awesome. I appreciate you guys coming so much, especially on short notice.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm really sorry I'm late.
Marty, you have a question? Because
It's
I
more-
have to go on to some other things.
It's more of a comment.
Okay.
Back in 2013, I was project leader for the Muddersfield Accessible Trail off of East Street for Pascoma Conservation Trust. And I wanted to, when we were in the design phase, I wanted to make sure we got it right. And so I connected with Stavros and I worked with, I believe it was Andy Bristol. And he came to look at the site and we went over the plans together, and he was extremely helpful in helping us kind of get the fine details of the design down, so it would be so the trail would be useful to a variety of users. And so thanks again.
Thank you for reaching out.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
To the rest of you, I have to actually go in a few minutes. So Eli, the co-chair, is going to have to like go through the rest of the meeting with you. Eli, did you find the agenda?
Yes, I have the
Okay.
agenda.
Thank you,
And if-
guys.
Yeah.
Sure, and I will be stepping off.
Yeah.
Fortunately, other stuff to do today.
No,
So
that's completely fine.
have a
Bye
great
for
day. Bye.
So I'm just going to, so I just want to say real quick that we're going to be looking for a new secretary, because our secretary can't make it anytime soon and has not been able to be here. So if you're interested in that, please let us know, because it's just been bouncing back and forth between some people. What did I want to, let's see. Okay, so after I leave, Eli, can you just do a snow ordinance update since you went to the meeting?
Yes.
And I will say before, like, the survey subcommittee met yesterday, and so I'm so sorry I have to go, guys. But Jeff Bagg, like, we were talking about, somebody brought up as to whether or not we could have an intern, like a planning intern, help us with the results from the survey or something along those lines. Did you guys want to repeat what you said in the subcommittee meeting so that Jeff knows what we're talking about? Yeah.
Marty, you're muted if you're.
Yep. I thought that since there was such a mass of data in that survey, that maybe it might be helpful to get a planning intern from UMass to help us go through the data and make some sense of it and work with you guys. I don't know. Or Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, would they have somebody on staff that would be helpful with it?
Yeah, I guess this is the first time hearing of it, so I guess we have to think about it a little bit. It's totally makes sense, the idea. I think getting an intern for one project is a little challenging because usually the internships are based on a school year and like a semester. So, you know, to bring on an intern quickly and just for one project might be tricky. I've only had one intern here from Westfield State, and you know, they had kind of the reason why we're not doing it anymore is because they had pretty rigorous requirements to set up the internship goals, and then set up benchmarks, review period, and then a reporting period at the end, so that they got, you know, even though we weren't paying them, they kind of needed credits for it. And so it was a little more rigorous than we can handle right now. And that was last year. Maybe PVPC, you know, is something that we could ask about. They do have a program where it's called local technical assistance, where you do have to make an application to them because their staff, you know, would need to have a certain amount of hours set aside for it. So it's a little bit more involved than it might sound to set that up, but we could probably do some investigation between now and the next meeting and figure out if there's something that could help. I know that Jamie, the assistant planner, is supposed to be kind of helping with that. I don't think she was at your meeting yesterday. She's on vacation this week. So that's kind of that would be the in-house solution that we had talked about initially, was to have Jamie kind of help. It's like you said, Marty, and I know that the commission knows this. I mean, we collected so much data. That was one of the questions that we had when we were putting together the survey was, what were we going to do with the data? And we put out the survey, so we didn't really figure out exactly what we were going to do with all the data. So that's why it's a good question. I think it's going to take a little bit more time to figure out what to do with the data and pick out the high points. But what I'll do is Jamie gets back next week. I'll talk to her and see if there's a way that she can commit a little bit of time to this. I think that's going to be it might be a little bit longer. Well, actually, it would probably be about the same amount of time, to be honest, if we try to do it that way. So that's what I'll try to do, is start with Jamie and try to have her commit some time, between now and the February meeting to see what we can do. I see other questions coming up.
I have a question. Easthampton now has a senior tax work-off program. If we could find an appropriate senior who has a background in this area, we may be able to get them through that program as well to help us with this.
And I have a question. Is it okay if I reached out to Mass Rehab to see if they had an intern who might be interested? I know in the past, Mass Rehab has set up internships, and one of the interns did a accessibility review of the City of Holyoke's annex. And it was very helpful. So I don't know if is it okay to reach out and see if they have anybody who might be interested in interning? They do all the paperwork.
Yeah, I don't think there's harm in reaching out. I think we just want to be clear that one of the projects that the commission has talked about is like a 5-year plan, coming up with a list of the projects that were goals for the next 5 years, and that hasn't really been completed either. So I think one of the strategies, Mary, that would be helpful is to see if there's any opportunity to have someone come on board and help the commission on you kind of want to build a variety of things. Maybe that would be part of what that person might do. I mean, we might be able to get success with just having someone do that one-off, kind of just process some items coming out of the survey, but maybe there's more to it. But yeah, I think reaching out is fine. I think we would need to take a couple, I think knowing whether they have anyone who might be able to help would be the first thing. And then if they say yes, then we probably need to talk as a group about what they would do, just to be clear, and who's going to be responsible for kind of interacting with that person and that sort of the logistics of it. But
well, I will reach out because I know one of the counselors two of the counselors meet on a regular basis with consumers at Basin Avenue. So I'll just reach out and put it in their head and see if they can think of anyone.
okay.
That's great, thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, so again, I'm sorry I'm late. So the public safety, so I attended the Public Safety Committee meeting in December to talk about snow clearing, and I basically said the same stuff that was in the letter that we sent, and basically the DPW guy was basically, well, there's not enough money, and we can't transfer money from roadway clearing to sidewalk clearing because I don't know, cars are more important. And then Lindsay Rothschild said, well, maybe we can just sort of, add just particular, find money to just add particular sidewalks, right, to the list of sidewalks that the city clears. And so then we came up with some, like, what we thought maybe the highest priority sidewalks were to be cleared. And so that's what happened. So any comments or questions on that?
Yeah. I also attended that, Eli. I was discouraged,
Yeah.
really, very discouraged. It just seemed like, I don't know. I understand DPW has their hands full. I understand that. And I understand their budget limit, but it didn't seem like they were willing to help. To almost like go out of their, it was going to be like putting them out of their way to have them help. And you're right, they were more concerned about the streets than about the sidewalk. I mean, they did discuss different ways, you know, fines and that, but that's not going to help.
Yeah.
And it was a discouraging, I thought a discouraging meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I wasn't surprised. I mean, I think it all fits into the whole, like, you know, the way that we support the use of and encourage the use of motor vehicles in like every aspect, right? And it's like, well, you know, we couldn't do it in this, we couldn't like change it in this aspect because then like it would conflict with all the other aspects. Like, yeah, it was kind of what I expected.
Eli, can I ask a question about, so the list of the high priority sidewalks was developed. How was it left at the meeting, or is there going to be a further vote on allocating funds, or how was it left?
Yeah, there wasn't anything, there wasn't any kind of action items, except for like kind of, you know, let's sort of look into it. Yeah, there wasn't any vote like scheduled or anything like that.
Okay.
And I mean, yeah, and I mean, I think Lindsay is sympathetic, but I mean, it's right. Yeah, it's like, yeah, like there's only so much that she can do, you know, and you know, some of the other counselors might be sympathetic too, but it's hard to tell because everyone's just like, there's just so much of the motoring bias there. And it's hard to fight that.
I was going to ask a question. I guess I was not at the meeting. You know, this is a really important thing that this group has talked about for a while, but it's really complicated. And I think to Mary's, you know, disappointment, I think there are quite a few elements at play. So, you know, I think I can understand Eli's perspective on where it feels like the emphasis is on cars and stuff like that. But I think money and funding, providing the funding for expanding services of DPW, it's constantly a discussion on all fronts. So it's not that just like the clearing of sidewalks for snow removal is the only thing that they say no, like we can't absorb that now. I mean, I think DPW gets a lot of pressure on for filling potholes and repairing other roads and just all the things that they do. I think it's just important for us to realize that they all come with a cost. So if a person has to work more hours, like there needs to be a plan to fund that aspect. And that I'm kind of babbling, but my long-winded way of saying is that, you know, maybe it's going to snow like on Friday, you know, we're in the middle of winter. Like this is a problem that we may need to set sights on next winter to really come up with a plan and get more people involved and understand what the costs are to do additional clearing on certain sidewalks. I think it's going to be hard to do it this winter. I think the momentum that we wanted to try to build and this idea of doing a video, like a PSA announcement. We haven't had any snow, by the way, and Stan emailed me, I was on vacation, but Angelique sent an email to like a little while ago before the meeting with some of the lists. And so I was just kind of like looking through it. Some of these seem like there would be a private property owner who's adjacent to the sidewalk. And so if we break this into two chunks, you know, we need to kind of revamp the ordinance, and we need to kind of come up with a better approach to have people actually clear the sidewalks that they're responsible for. That's one effort that we haven't really found our way on that, but that's one effort. The other, which I think Eli has talked about in the past, then there are some sidewalks that fall in between. The best example I can come up with off the list is on Park Street. There's the bridge over the Manhan Rail Trail, and so there's no private property owner like attached to that section, so it doesn't get cleared. So that's the one where like that would be a really good focus for trying to get DPW to expand over to that location. I don't know the way that these are written out and described. I don't know if everyone falls in that category, but some of them, like going up Park Street from that bridge that I just mentioned, but all the way past, you know, Whitebrook Elementary School and up further, there are private property owners that entire way. And so our best effort would be to start trying to figure out how to get those people to clear those walks, and then find out the ones that are like a true gap. And because otherwise DPW will, I think every time they're going to bristle up and say they will, I think it'll be hard to get them to cover all those sidewalks. So I just wanted to kind of air that out a little bit. I wasn't at the meeting. I think it's a great conversation. I do think it's a little bit longer vision to come up with a solution. I wouldn't put it all away. Like, I think that there could be some real specific locations that we want to try to ask DPW to look at, and that might be more manageable for them. But to say like to do all of Park Street, you know, that is a big lift, I think.
Yeah, so I know that, Jeff, I know that everything comes at a cost. I'm just asking that the money that we have be spent equitably. And I feel like, you know, there are some things where, you know, money is no object, and some things where, you know, there's always, well, we never have enough money.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm wondering if it's possible that the city could work with a private contractor on an on-call basis to clear sidewalks as needed where property owners aren't doing what they're supposed to. And in cases like that, bill the property owner if someone has to come in and clear it for them, if that's at all possible, practical.
That was brought up at the meeting, if I'm not mistaken, correct, Eli? Bringing in private and billing the homeowner. It was also suggested for the bridge on Park Street that Williston be approached and ask them if they would consider doing it as a favor to the city, because it is close to their property. So they did mention approaching Williston for that and doing some other property around there. It was also mentioned that they are having, and I know everywhere you look, everyone's having a hard time trying to get private contractors to snowplow.
Yeah.
I mean,
a couple things. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Mary. I mean, I think
that's okay.
Asking Williston to take it on, like who, I don't know, I wasn't at the meeting, but I don't know who said they would do that, but I think that's good. That, you know, of the things we just listed, that's going to be the easiest, because if they agree, then they have the crews just do it. To Marty's, you know, point, I think the thing is that our ordinance, and this is what came up, this is, you know, for a while we've been talking about this, but the ordinance is old, it's way outdated. So to set up, you know, to bill a homeowner, like that's a change to the ordinance that would have to be crafted, and that's a big deal. It would take a lot of time to figure that mechanism out, and it would involve the city to get access to the money once it's been charged. But then I think the actual harder part about, like, we can't just go and get an on-call, like, we can't just get a contractor to be on call. We have to like procure them, and we have to come up with a contract, and we have to get a proposal. So it's like, all these things they are doable, but they take a lot of time, and they're intricate, because we would need to have the contract with a private snowplower, and they would have to understand, like, what are we contracting for, and it's just more involved. I wish it wasn't,
Yeah.
because the city has a hard time, like, even Eli, like, if money was there, it's harder than you think to spend the money.
Right.
The municipality, but
Yeah. Well, also one of the issues with putting the burden of snow clearing on individual property owners and residents is that it's more of a burden for some people than others.
Mhm.
And so billing people for not clearing their snow kind of exacerbates that kind of inequality.
yeah. I mean, I think this is once removed from this discussion, but I think Stan had emailed, and there is some willingness from Easthampton Media to do a little public service announcement. But one of the things I think we would need a group of people to go out and, like, during or probably after a snowstorm, and I don't know who would be best to, like, help illustrate what an uncleared sidewalk does for especially someone with mobility issues. I mean, I think that's really where that we want this PSA to kind of like be effective, is that if there is someone who has mobility issues or is in a wheelchair and there's an uncleared walk, I mean, what does that do? So I think I think we have a period of a couple months to figure something out, but figuring out who would participate in this kind of thing would be helpful, because we're going to get some snow, and I think that would be our opportunity to kind of raise awareness. And I think it would at least be that first chunk to compel homeowners, to the people that can clear the walks. There's a whole lot of goodwill. I know, like, there's a lot of neighbors who have a snow blower and they'll just keep going down past, a couple houses farther than they need to. And that is something that's really important, and it's just raise awareness for people to try to do that.
Jeff, I
Yeah.
do think what you said, the ordinance are extremely outdated. Extremely, I mean, and I think it's one of the ordinance just to put a little light in here, is it's illegal to have snowball fights in Easthampton. So we can't go outside with the kids and have a snowball fight. It's illegal. It was from like 1915 or something, an ordinance. So the ordinance are extremely outdated when it comes to all of this. And that is a barrier to everything also, to the snow removal, is the variance. And they did say they were going to try to go through them and work on to bring them up into this century.
Yeah, well, and that was, I mean, something that, a lot of the counselors are saying, well, yeah, why can't neighbors just help each other and clear, help each other clear their snow? And I mean, sure, like, yeah, like, neighbors should help each other, but I think the point is that is not how it's done, but who takes responsibility for it. And I feel like if the city is taking responsibility for clearing roadways, then they should take the same responsibility for clearing sidewalks. And regardless of how they do it, whether they pay someone or they find volunteers or whatever, it should be considered, one responsibility.
So was there another step with so again, Angelique emailed the group this morning with the sidewalks. Eli, was there another step that you thought would happen? Would it go back to that subcommittee meeting?
Yeah, well, I think, well, we thought of some like higher priority sidewalks, and I think Lindsay, I don't know, I think Lindsay was going to look into, you know, kind of how to at least, like, you know, get certain sidewalks, to have the city clear certain sidewalks, because the city already clears the sidewalks that are adjacent to city property, right? And so, like, you know, could maybe they just add a few more that aren't adjacent to city property? And yeah, so that's the impression that I got at the end of the meeting, is that Lindsay was gonna somehow, I don't know, like, try to finagle something.
Could we, I don't know if this is Eli, you or not, but could we put sidewalk clearing on the next agenda again and maybe see if Lindsay can come to give an update for the February meeting?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, we can do that.
At least let's put it on the agenda to continue to talk about it, but I think ideally if Lindsay could come and just share any other thoughts or approach, that might be helpful.
Yeah, but yeah, yes, good
Okay.
idea.
And then to close the loop, I will, I'll circle back to Stan first and then anyone else and figure out if there's a way we can come up with a plan. I would say just at this point, like probably in late January or February to maybe try to coordinate a time to do like some video or start to set up a public service announcement for a video or something like that.
I was wondering if any folks from Riverside might be willing to be involved in the PSA.
Yeah, I think we should. And unfortunately, they just dropped off the call. So I think I would like to circle back to them as well, because I think they are in town and I know that they access the sidewalks a lot. So I agree with you, Molly. I think that would be a good approach. Jeff, were you gonna say something?
Can I speak to that just because?
Yeah.
I feel like so a lot. Yeah, I think we could definitely see about enlisting Riverside. I feel like a lot of my standby people that I would think of would be like the first people I'd take out aren't currently in my department. Like in terms of like the people who I've actually had trouble pushing over a snowbank that I could be like, hey, can you do this video with me? We're tackling this issue. And I feel like but I feel like Riverside overall, you know, you could get some interest. Unfortunately, the people that I feel like, yeah, a lot of the people that I would think of as the first people to have trouble with accessibility and understand the need for a video, like Matt that used to come to the meeting, for example. He's not currently in the department, so I don't know. But yeah, it's an idea.
I have a connection with the new executive director over at Riverside Industries. She's a colleague, and with Shar, who just retired. I'd be happy to reach out to Riverside and see what type of involvement they may be able to offer in this, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, you can reach out, and you know, I work there, so I mean, I can definitely reach out as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you want help making a video, I'm happy to be a part of that. I've done a little bit of, I can do some very basic editing, and you know, or help setting up the scene or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I'll try to come up with a plan, and Kate, I think that would be good. And Jeff, I think this is a good effort. And I think I feel like I'm going to say this again, and I hate to say this kind of thing, but I think all these ideas take time. And so we kind of need the winter formulate the plan for the PSA, and then whether we would want to try to get it out this winter, but it's really something that we've set up for the future efforts that we all kind of see with the snow removal ordinance and raising the awareness of it, I think. So it's unfortunate that it won't be a lot of immediate solving of problems, but it kind of helps us set the stage to really highlight the issue. And I think that I know it's important. So I think that's kind of why I think it'd be a good effort to undertake. So I'll accept some responsibility to coordinate a little bit of this and report back, I think, at the February meeting, and hopefully we'll have a plan, because my expectation is we'll have some snow events someday here. I like snow personally, but so I think someday we'll have that, and I think that we'll use that as the momentum to try to do something.
Yeah, and I mean, a full third of the people who filled out the survey said that that would be their priority was sidewalks, like making the sidewalks more usable.
So I think
And
that's a really
should
good.
mean something.
Yeah, that's a good point, Eli, because I think that would be perfect in the PSA. Is like the Commission on Disability released a survey last year, and 1/3 of the responses identified this as a priority. And then it doesn't have to be super elaborate, but just an illustration of what an uncleared walk does to somebody's route. Like, I think that's that's kind of the gist of what I'm thinking, at least. And I think I'm sure there's ways to make it better. But that was the idea. So I like that, Eli. I think that's important. It's a great way to use some of the survey data and inform something.
Yeah. Well, we are past 11, so we should probably end.
I just did a quick Google search of sidewalk clearing PSA, and there's a bunch of examples that we might look at to guide us in that.
Sounds good, Marty. Thank you.
Awesome.
Eli, one other thing for the next meeting in February, or Kate, if you're taking the notes, if we can have an update on the ADA grant, I would like to be able to give the commission a full update. So I have good news, which is that we did get the grant finally. So we applied. This is the 4th year in a row that we've applied from the Mass Office of Disability to do an accessibility inventory, and then come up with the plans or the steps that we need to solve problems with city-owned buildings and sites. So we got it's like $43,000 to hire a consultant to do these assessments with us, and then come up with the plan. And I would like to see if the consultant can come to the February meeting, so I'll work on that. But the idea is that once we have the inventory and we have identified the problems, then we can actually apply for money to fix them. And so that's a lot of what the state does, is that they want you to do the inventory work first, then it makes you eligible for larger pots of money to actually fix problems. So we've tried for 4 years in a row to get this. And so it's not something where we can't say anything publicly yet, because the Mass Office of Disability has not put out their press release, but I did want to share that with the group. So for the next meeting, we should be cleared by February to talk about it and put out a press release, and then figure out how I think how the commission can be involved in that project. It's really important. So if that can be on the next agenda, we'll share more information then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How should I note that if it's not public information? Should I in the minutes?
I mean, I think it's acceptable. I think it's okay if it's in the minutes that that we learned that we were awarded of the grant. What they don't want is just big, social media, posts or an article in the Gazette. So just as long as no one shares it with the Gazette, we'll be all right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Kate, for taking the notes.
No problem.
And our next meeting is on February 1st. So hopefully I will see you then. I guess the meeting is adjourned.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.